You know, as somebody in the Gen Z generation myself, I look around at my peers who, a lot of the time, do not want to start a business, do not want to work 40 hours a week in a 9 to 5, and I ask what the end goal situation for their life is. A lot of people have been quick to criticize my lifestyle of being an entrepreneur, and the reality of it is, I do run my own businesses. I have a part-time job as well, where I work like 1 to 3 days a week, but the reality of my life is, I make more than the average UK salary running my businesses. So that's my choice, right? Say what you want about that, but I pay all my bills, I pay my rent, I've got a car, I pay my housing costs, I pay my insurance, I pay my taxes. It's not anybody's place to really judge. But when I look around about people who do not want to run a business, right, that's one thing, fair enough. Even if you don't understand what I do, I don't need to justify it. And then you look at people who do not only not want to run a business, but don't want to have a 9 to 5 because it's too intense. And it's always been my mindset that you pick your struggle, right? You pick your struggle. So as a business owner, I will have a lot of struggles. As a 9 to 5 worker, you will have a lot of struggles. My struggles might be with retaining clients, it might be with marketing, it might be with, I don't know, filling out documents. As a 9 to 5 worker, it might be with monotony, it might be with burnout, it might be with stress. These are just a few obvious ones, right? But then you look around at people who want to do neither of these, and you ask, what is the plan? What is the actual end goal here? And for a lot of people who are in this generation who do not want to pick one of these paths, it's time to wake up. Because, you know, people in my generation now, they're coming into their early, if not mid-20s. Some of them a bit younger, obviously, but they're coming up in age. And long term, if they do not pick a plan, what is the end goal going to look like? Like I say, I know the path that I'm on, even if not everybody approves of it. This is just some context, right? I can invest, I've got savings, I've got businesses. I know people who are doing super well doing a 9 to 5. Fair enough. I know people who do a bit of a hybrid, maybe they work like 3-4 days a week, but they run a business that's making a couple £100, and it works out to be fair enough. That's okay. All of that's okay. But coming to what you actually are going to do. A lot of people don't seem to realise that there's never been a time in history where you can work less and make more. And I know some people will say, well, people in this time period, no, that's wrong. Rich people in this time period, let's say the Victorian times, people say, oh, the Victorians had such elegant dress. The rich ones did. The poor ones did not. You know, so back on this broader point, there's never been a time where 36-hour weeks, maybe even slightly less, working from home. Work has never been easier in a lot of ways, in a lot of jobs. Not all, but some. Running a business, starting a business has never been easier. The internet, I'll just leave that one there. But people who don't want to do either, where are they going to end up? A lot of people feel like they have time to discover things, and sure they do. Travel a bit, see things, don't be forced into an industry. But this work ethic, which permeates society, in the younger generation at least, and I'm somebody who has lots of friends who are in their early to mid-20s, this is more of a thing than you might think. What is the end goal, eh? Like, you cannot get by working 16 hours a week and have a reasonably successful adult life. You can if you run a business as well, but a lot of guys don't want to do that. So you don't want to run a business, you don't want to have a job. How are you expected to live? And then a lot of people look to the social programs and all that sort of stuff. Look at the reality of it, right? The luxury pensions and good provisions that are in place right now are already strained to almost breaking point. Is it really realistic that you will be able to live off the state until, 2070 something, 28? So that's not an option. Again, there's never really been a time in history where minimum wage, low-skilled jobs have paid super well. Maybe they paid better comparatively in the 80s or the 70s, and maybe that's not the case, maybe it is, but we are where we are. And I don't like to say that, and I know a lot of people say, well, that's ignoring some realities of the world. I don't make the rules. But if you want to have a successful life to a degree, you've got to play by them. So going back to the point, right? Where are a lot of these people going to end up? And I say this not to be rude, not to be judgmental, but hopefully as a wake-up call, because, it's not fair for a lot of guys to be relying on their parents, and I mean fully relying, into their late 20s even. Late 20s. They're not going anywhere. And I don't say it to be rude, but what is life going to look like for people on this path long term? What is the end game? I'm just asking the question, right? Because I understand it, right? At age 23, even 24, 25, fine, travel, experience things. But so many people have this attitude that they don't want to build a business, they don't want to build an income, they don't want to have a job. What next then? What actually next as you become into the middle of your 20s, if not going on past that? What's going to happen then? If you're still not deciding to build a business, if you're still not deciding to make a plunge and get a job, or maybe travel somewhere and move to a cheaper country with your online business, what kind of a lifestyle are you ever going to have? Living at home forever? Never having a car? Never having success in life? And the reality of it is, life is not meant for surviving, it's meant for thriving. And I know a lot of people have this idea that life is harder now. Comparatively, in some ways, it absolutely is. A lot of things in this world right now are more challenging to access, more challenging to get, more challenging to work to. A lot of things are not. And a lot of people who complain about these things have not applied themselves to the modern world. I know people my age who are doing super, super well. And I know this is a bit of perhaps survivorship bias, because I also know people who are not. So it's two sides of the coin. And I'm not going to say it's exceptionally easy for people in this generation. It's not. We've got a lot of unique challenges, and a lot of things are worse than they ever have been. But a lot of people have not applied themselves to a degree to actually know whether this is true. Completing my overall point, or trying to tie this all together, kind of. There's never been a time in history, and I've spoken about this point before, where people could, I work 16 hours in a shop, and I can afford a house, and no. We talk about people in former generations having it easier, and in some ways it's true. At the same time, they worked 40 hours, right? They worked 40 hours. And I don't believe in the 9-to-5 lifestyle so much myself, but I run a business. Actually, I run a few, right? And a consequence of that is I have different challenges, unique struggles, and fair enough, I've accepted them all, but it is what it is. So that's the path that I've gone down. But I've picked a path. I have picked a path. Go down a 9-to-5, you've picked a path. There's nothing wrong with being a 9-to-5er. There's nothing wrong with being a business owner. Some people will criticize this one, some people will criticize that one, it's like that. But I will not criticize either. But seriously though, people have this, I do believe unfortunately it is a sense of entitlement, and I hear this from so many young people. This is the people who I know, right? It's not some internet debate, it's true real life, who think, oh, life is so difficult, it's so hard to get an apartment. And I look at properties in our town, at least, right? I know if you live in like London or maybe the US, your situation's completely different, but I'm like, so a property in our town is like, we'll say 600-700. I'm not saying it's cheap, it's exceptionally expensive, but if you worked 40 hours, you could easily afford that, my friend. And yeah, that's not the easiest lifestyle, but especially when we make correlations and comparisons to the past, it was a path that more and more people were willing to go down comparative to now. So many people don't want to do that. So many people are not happy with that. And fair enough, but what is the end game then? Because where is your income going to come from? The provisions that are in place right now probably will not be for the next 100 or so years. And if you want to have any success in this life, I feel like, at least when we look at the monetary front, which does unfortunately influence a lot of things. If you don't have money, you can't have a stable house. If you don't have money, you probably can't raise your children in the way that you'd like to. So we go on all these paths. What is the end game, eh? If we're not working at something, how are we going to afford an adult life? And this is not everybody. Like I say, I've gone down a path. I know a lot of people who've gone down different paths or the same path. And I know a lot of people who are super successful. But I know other people who sit there and complain, moan, and do not improve. And I ask, what is their life going to look like? Because fair enough if you're still figuring things out when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 23. But a lot of these guys do not want to work hard on anything up to 24, 25, 26, 27. Life was never easy. Life was never easy. There may have been certain things that have been easier in the past. There were certain things that were harder in the past. There are new challenges, unique challenges of every generation. And how many people just fail to acknowledge this? How many people are, I don't know, they're just not assessing the situation for what it is and realizing the chances and opportunities that they could possibly have. There is no end game because there is no foresight. And, enough of us can realize, okay, so if I don't work hard on something to build some money and savings and investments or a business or a job or a career, I'm never going to move out, I'm never going to have this, I'm never going to have that. Nobody does that, or not enough people do that. And I feel like that's why they get themselves into a position where this is a potential end game. Anyway, that's all I want to say on this one, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And if you did, of course, give us a like and subscribe. Let me know your opinions on this in the comments. But that's all I've got to say for this topic. Thank you. See you soon.